Welcome to another edition of Channel 4 News Special Report. I am your host, Jeffrey Rajkumar. Today, the verdict is out. Corporations can no longer be limited in how much money they can give to election campaigns. Citizens United versus Federal Election Commission is what is on the agenda for tonight. The story of Citizens United versus Federal Election Commission starts off with a production called Hillary, the movie. Never heard of it? Well, that's not surprising, considering that it was never allowed to be shown legally on television. The reason? Hillary the movie violated part of the Bipartisan Campaign Reform Act, or BCRA, which is better known as McCain-Feingold. The BCRA stated that electioneering communications, which are basically campaign advertisements, that were funded by corporations were not legal as it allowed corporations too much power in the election process. The case did not actually start out at the Supreme Court level. It found its origins in the Washington, D.C. District Court in 2008, and the judges actually ruled in favor of the FEC, saying that the BCRA was constitutional and had to be upheld. The case was appealed, and it was brought all the way to the Supreme Court. Tonight, here to briefly discuss the case with me is respected campaign finance expert, Mr. Alex Thomas. Thank you for coming tonight, Mr. Thomas.
Thanks for having me, Jeff.
So, Mr. Thomas, in your opinion, did the Supreme Court get it right with their decision in Citizens United versus Federal Election Commission?
Yes, I do, Jeff. I believe that denying corporations the right to spend money towards election campaigns is also denying their First Amendment rights.
But doesn't this give corporations more power than the average citizen? Doesn't this mean that a corporation like ExxonMobil can effectively match any donation given by a person and basically cancel it out?
Theory, this may be true, Jeff, but I believe that the First Amendment gives everyone a voice, and that quieting corporations would be quieting too large of a voice in the political world. Everyone should have a voice, and this includes corporations.
One more question, Mr. Thomas. Do you believe that the court should have overruled its precedent when it comes to Hillary the movie? And by precedent, I mean the BCRA.
I absolutely believe so, Jeff. I believe that not allowing Hillary the movie to be shown is a prime example of the absurdity of not allowing corporations to give their opinions. Speech is speech, and it doesn't matter where it comes from. If the only reason that a movie about a presidential candidate cannot be shown is because it was funded partially by a corporation, then I believe that the court was absolutely correct in overturning its precedent.
I'm really sorry for the brief nature of this interview, Mr. Thomas, but that's all we have time for. Thank you for your time.
Thanks for having me, Jeff.
We were lucky enough here at Channel 4 News to catch statements by some of the Supreme Court justices that were involved in the case. The majority side of the decision was backed on its central point by Justice Kennedy and also by Chief Justice Roberts and Justices Alito, Thomas, and Antonin Scalia. The majority opinion was given by Justice Kennedy and was in favor of a broad interpretation of First Amendment rights. We will now take you to an in-depth and exclusive interview with some of the justices of the Supreme Court.
If the First Amendment has any force, it prohibits Congress from fining or jailing citizens or associations of citizens for simply engaging in political speech. The First Amendment protects more than just the individual on a soapbox and the lonely pamphleteer.
Justice Roberts also pointed out that if the judiciary did not overturn precedent, that
segregation would be illegal, minimum wage laws would be unconstitutional, and the government could wiretap ordinary criminal suspects without first obtaining warrants.
The minority side of the decision was written by Justice Stevens and was joined by Justices Ginsburg, Breyer, and Sotomayor. Unlike the majority opinion given by the 5 justices of the majority, the 4 justices that constituted the minority were all content to let Justice Stevens sum up the dissent in a 90-page report. Justice Stevens was not at all in sync with the opinion given by the majority of the court and stated that
the rule announced today that Congress must treat corporations exactly like human speakers in the political realm represents a radical change in the law. The court's decision is at war with the views of generations of Americans. While American democracy is imperfect, few outside the majority of this court would have thought its flaws included a dearth of corporate money in politics.
Let's take a look at how Citizens United versus Federal Election Commission can make a tangible impact in your everyday lives. First off, there will be a lot more of the advertisements for political candidates on television, as businesses can now fund for the candidate that they want. You can also expect to see tax breaks during the coming years, as businesses are sure to put their money into candidates that will reduce taxes. This decision also has the ability to impact politics in a filibuster-esque way. For example, the simple threat of a corporation to spend millions of dollars on one candidate may be enough for the opposing candidate to back out of the race. Whether that's a good thing or bad thing is up to you, but it's sure to affect everyone in the recent years to come. There's not a doubt in my mind, this is one of the most important cases decided by the Supreme Court and will inevitably join the likes of cases like Plessy v. Ferguson and Roe v. Wade. The case is sure to be a topic of heated debate between those who are for corporate spending in politics and those who are against it, but I'm sure that the decision will be a hotly contested one for years to come. Like Justice Kennedy said, it is a vindication of the First Amendment, and whether it is for good or for bad, the case has definitely given a broad interpretation to the First Amendment that will allow big businesses to influence politics. With that statement, thank you for joining us tonight. I'm your host, Jeffrey Rajkumar, and as always, be sure to turn in to the special report every Monday night at 8 o'clock on Channel 4 News. Good night.
I want the lines.
Okay, I want you...
Give me the lines.
Can you see from here?